Hey y'all, I'm Midwest Mama and I am an FND warrior, which is Functional Neurological Disorder, and I just wanted to tell my story about why I've actually been inactive this week. And this is going to be kind of a long story, so if you could watch to the end and like and share to raise awareness for FND, that would be really great. So last Monday, I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning having non-epileptic seizures. Non-epileptic seizures are just a little bit different than regular epileptic seizures because epileptic seizures are caused by an electrical disturbance in the brain, whereas non-epileptic seizures are not. They're kind of a software glitch in your brain because FND is where there's a disconnect with how your brain speaks to the rest of your body. That first initial seizure lasted around 10-15 minutes, and then I was able to get it to stop. Usually when I'm woken up from a dead sleep, to have one of those, I know it's going to be a bit of a rough day. So I called my husband on the phone and I said, hey, I need you to come here, because he was sleeping on the couch because he had fallen asleep out there. He came, he helped me get through it. I got through it and I was able to get back to sleep after a little while. And then I woke up and I went to choir. Fortunately, I was not feeling really well, but we had a concert on Friday, and I didn't want to miss some really important rehearsals leading up to the choir performance. So I went, and I was not doing well. Like, everybody could tell I was not doing really well. I was really groggy, really foggy, and having a hard time with my speech, having a hard time walking. And I ended up leaving choir. Normally it starts at 11:15. I ended up leaving at like 11:45, going and laying out in the lobby on the couch. And I called my husband, telling him, hey, I need you to come get me. I'm not doing well. I was crying. And I ended up having a seizure out in the lobby while I was waiting for my husband. Luckily, my mother-in-law works on campus, so I had also been texting her, letting her know what was going on. She came, she hung out with me, and well, as long as she could. She had to get back to class. And then my husband came, he picked me up, and he took me home. So I finally made it home, and I was having a, really rough day. Around 3:30 in the afternoon, another seizure started. But immediately, I could tell that this one was going to be a really big one, because the way that my body just gets really heavy, like I'm filled with rocks. My tongue gets really heavy, my face gets really hot, and like my vision goes weird. And it just goes, it starts, and it's full body. Usually when I get like the smaller ones, it's just like head and upper body involvement. My head twitches really back and forth really fast, and my body clenches, but it's more just like my arms, my hands, and my head. This one was full body, where my back was arching and everything, and it just kept going and going and going and going. So after an hour of this seizure going and going and going, having no breaks, I was crying and crying. And we ended up calling an ambulance, explaining to them, or my husband was explaining to them that my wife has non-epileptic seizures. She's got FND, and it's been going on an hour, and we can't get it to stop. So the ambulance came, and they were like, do you want us to take it to the hospital? Unfortunately, we can't give you any emergency meds to make it stop, so it's up to you on if you want us to stay here and monitor you, or if you want us to take you to the hospital. And when I have these seizures, sometimes I can communicate just a tiny bit, like I can say like single words or maybe 2 words at a time. So I just said hospital. So they were able to kind of sort of walk me outside. It took 2 of them, and I was like trying to not collapse. It was raining, so that's why they didn't bring one of their beds in to roll me outside, because it was like pouring. So they walked me out to the ambulance, and like I said, it took 2 of them because I was trying to like not collapse because I was shaking so hard. We got in the ambulance, they took my vitals, they checked my blood sugar, it was normal. I was kind of sort of communicating with them the best that I could about what was going on. My husband and my son were there, or not in the ambulance, but they followed behind us, and they met us at the hospital. And I heard the EMS person tell the hospital, we've got prolonged seizure activity. And first I heard the hospital like, what? And he's like, oh, pseudo seizures. I'm like, my heart dropped. I was like, I'm not going to be taken seriously. I knew right away I wasn't going to be taken seriously. And so we get to the hospital, and we get to the triage area, and they get me into a wheelchair, and he's like, we're going to take you out to the triage area, and they're going to get your vitals, triage you, all that. So they did. By the way, I'm still seizuring. I hadn't stopped. Just letting you know this. And so they got my vitals again, did all that. The nurse was taking my history. By the way, I'd been to this ER before for this disorder, so it's on record. that I'd been there for this disorder before. And I go through this hospital for all of my medical care as well. So all of my notes, I even gave the nurse, the triage nurse, and then another nurse practitioner came in as well. And I gave them my phone with my medical records on it, like my MyChart, and I gave it to them because I was having a hard time communicating. And so I just gave it to them with all my meds, my doctor's notes, my diagnoses, and everything. I said, just here, take it. The nurse could not get blood on me. She couldn't even find a vein, so she didn't even try. And so they brought me back out to the emergency room waiting room, where I was left in the waiting room for 5 hours, 6 hours, 6 hours, 6 hours. In that time, my seizures stopped once for 5 minutes. In that time, I did not get an IV. In that time, it took 3 hours for them to actually finally come get my blood, get a urine test. Because I asked, I said, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. Does somebody want to come help me? In very small words, because I couldn't talk very well. And finally, they did. And here's that proof. There's where they stuck me, but no IV. Nothing. My husband even said, hey, can we have something from the doctor or a nurse practitioner just to give her while she's waiting so that we can have something to try to break the cycle while we're waiting to be seen. Followed up multiple times. And, they could see me seizing in the waiting room in my wheelchair over and over and over and over again. They were not stopping. And they were just like, sorry, we can't help you right now. There's no room. We're trying. We're doing the best we can. We can't get you back there. And my husband's like, she's been seizing here for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. And they're like, well, there's people that have been here all day for 9 or 10 hours. And my husband's like, she's been having straight seizures since 3:30 this afternoon. And it's nighttime now. So you know what we did? We ended up leaving. I ended up not walking. My husband had to wheel me out in the wheelchair. We ended up leaving the emergency room without being seen. I had my husband sign a paper because I couldn't hold the pen to actually sign my AMA paper. We ended up walking out of that emergency room without actually being seen by a doctor because they were not taking my seizures seriously because they're non-epileptic seizures. They were not epileptic seizures, so they were not taken seriously. By the time I got home and my body finally calmed down, my body had been seizing for 7 hours. 7 hours. That was Monday. It took until Thursday morning before I could actually walk. And my mom had to bring a walker. Thursday and Friday, I had to use a walker to walk without somebody's help. And it took until yesterday before I could actually walk without an assistance device. So with no help to them, here I am walking. And yes, I did go to my concert. I went to my concert with the walker. I stood up with a walker. And I sat down in a chair because I got more compassion and empathy at my concert. And I sang my little heart out, and it was beautiful. Non-epileptic seizures should be taken just as seriously as epileptic ones. The medical community needs to take FND seriously. Did you know that it's the second most diagnosed neurological disorder next to migraines, and yet so much of the medical community doesn't take it seriously? That needs to change. They need to be educated. It's not a psych disorder. It's a neurological disorder. Spread awareness, like, share if you made it this far. Thank you.